Good evening, Chiefs Kingdom. Welcome to the Chiefs Digest Live Q&A. I am Matt Derrick, as it says there in the corner. Really excited. I see some great comments, and I have to tell you all, really perks me up when I see some of the first comments, and I see hooray, hooray, it's Q&A day from Luttrell. Zulu, here for the best Chiefs talk in town. Uh, Sharon, one of our members, with the good evening. All it's playoff football. Chris, good friend, good evening. Matt, Nick, and all woohoo! Can't wait for Saturday. Truly appreciate it. It's great to see enthusiasm. Love it all. Appreciate all of you. It's comments like that hey, perk me up on maybe any day that I'm having some down moments. I can think about that, and it really perks me up. So thank you. I appreciate always the kind words. And hey, I always take comments too and feedback. So got anything you want to say that's not very, not like that, I'll take it. So don't worry about that. Just don't say anything like that to Nick. He doesn't need that. So he's probably already listening to me, doing just doing a little film review, getting ready for the show and keeping up on what's going on. Exciting week. It is football. Playoff football is here, and this is what this team's been playing for all season. It really does feel to a degree like a 17 game preseason for this team sometimes. 15-2 is a great way to go through your preseason, but this is what this team cares about. And, I think that was definitely one of the tones that you could definitely pick up in the comments from the players and the coaches today. It's more serious. It's more real. And talking to even some of the younger guys, I was talking to Hunter Norzad and CJ Hansen about a story, just kind of recapping. This is the first chance I've had to talk to them since they've had the bye week. First time we've had a chance to be in the locker room since the Denver game, but just to talk to them about what that experience was like. And, and they get it, even though these are young guys, might not see a lot of action, but they get that, hey, it's playoff time. It gets faster. It gets more real. This is a big deal. So, I talked to Justin Reed a little bit about the 2019 divisional game and just kind of his side of things and what happened. We'll have a piece up on Chiefs Digest later about that later this week. But it's pervasive throughout that locker room, and I think we're seeing it with the coaches too. I'll be interested to see what we see with the coordinators on Wednesday. I think we'll see the kind of same attitude, but this team gets it. I mean, they know what playoff football is about. They know that it steps up a notch, and they're playing a team that's already played a game, so it's even going to step up a notch from the wild card weekend. And I get, there might be some people who are concerned that this team, whether the week off and some of the distractions for the coaches with interviews, whether that will be of an impact. And I really think this team's too professional to let that happen. I mean, it's going to be decided on the field and what happens there. And I mean, I think this team's ready for it. So we'll obviously see what happens. It's a fun week ahead, and it's all underway. And I've promised Nick that I'm going to try and make this a whole lightning round. So I'm going to try not to spend like 5 minutes or 10 minutes on a question. We'll see what happens. Maybe Nick is going to be the guy who talks a lot tonight, and it won't be my fault. But I want to get everybody's questions in and everybody's comments in as much as possible. So don't want it to be 8:00 and I'm still answering questions from 7:05. So that's pretty much all I have to say. Health-wise, this team's in really good shape. McCole Hardman is, hey, first question from Mr. M kind of comes in. McCole was the only player who was limited in practice today. Jalen Watson was a full participant with arguably a worse injury. Do you think Casey just rolls with Remigio in the playoffs? And I mean, I don't think Nico Remigio is going anywhere. Even if McCole comes back, I mean, I think there's a place for both those guys on the roster if the Chiefs choose to go that direction. Certainly with Jalen being a full participant today and McCole still being limited, I mean, ABCs will tell you that just that point that Jalen is more likely to I think take that spot on the 53 that's available. The Chiefs put Marlon Tuipulotu on injured reserve last week, so they've got a spot on the 53. Jalen's full, ready to go. Then it probably isn't going to be McCole in that spot. It could still be. I mean, I'm not ruling it out, but and I don't think that it's McCole or Nico. I mean, I believe that if the Chiefs decide that McCole is ready to come back and they still have another week to decide, if injuries happen, they can bring back McCole. They've got that option. But I don't think it's an either or, especially if you think about it from, kickoff return standpoint. If you had Nico and McCole both on the team and you can put them both back there, I think that's an incredible duo to have back on kick returns. And, I no offense to Samaje Perine, but I think McCole would be an upgrade from Samaje. And, we saw the Chiefs, back in training camp, hey, they would try out every once in a while some interesting looks. I mean, they like us not to report some of that stuff, and I try to honor it when I can. I do believe that training camp practices are on the record, so I feel like anything that happens there is fair game. So I'm not going to go into great detail about it, but hey, the Chiefs experimented with some pretty aggressive work on kickoffs, during training camp, as far as reverses or handoffs, throwing across the field, you name it. But haven't done any of that for the most part. I mean, they may have had like one tricky return all season. Couldn't remember the details if they actually did it, but and they did a little bit in preseason a little bit, but I think that goes with having the injuries all season. They haven't had maybe the speed and the experience that they'd like to have out there. So I don't think it's an either or. I mean, McCole, I think, does to give them some things that Nico can't give them. I think Nico's an incredibly reliable returner. I don't think they want to risk losing him either, so I don't think he's hitting waivers. Could be surprised, but I mean, if that 53 spot goes to Jalen, then McCole maybe is just, a kind of an emergency backup. I mean, it doesn't mean he can't still come back next week because he still has a week to go in his practice window. For what it's worth, Jalen Watson does as well. Both of them, the final decision isn't until AFC Championship week. You'd have to make the final decision for them. So let's see. But I think Remigio is going to stay on this team regardless. I mean, it always could be that he ends up not being active, but I think he is. I think he's going to be their kick and punt returner. If you got McCole added in there as well, I mean, I think this just improves your special teams, but let's see what happens. And Mr. Nate Taylor, good friend, said today he believes DJ Humphries is getting 75% of the left tackle snaps in practice, and Reed is likely leaning towards starting him. Do you agree? I mean, I can't say for certain that I've heard that. Today was the first day of practice. It was a light practice. It was no pads, nothing like that, no helmets. So it was basically just a walkthrough. Wednesday is going to be the more intense practice. I expect it will be a padded practice, which, the Chiefs don't always do this late in the season, but I think they feel like it's important to get into pads at some point this week. They got into pads for a day last week, and I think that, and Travis Kelce mentioned it as well, as just, that there is, some importance in getting in the pad. So I think Wednesday might be a padded practice and more intensity, and I'll be interested to see too if they go outside for that one, because they were indoors on Tuesday. But getting back to DJ Humphries and the Joe Toney question, it would not surprise me if the Chiefs are giving a lot of snaps to DJ Humphries to just see where he's at, what the comfort level is. I do believe that the Chiefs believe that their best offensive line is with a healthy DJ Humphries at left tackle and your all-pro left guard, Joe Toney, at left guard. So I think they believe that's their best offensive line. But I'll bank on what I've been saying, the last week or so. I think it's your best left tackle is who Patrick Mahomes believes is your best left tackle. And if Mahomes has the comfort level with DJ Humphries, I say you go with DJ Humphries, and you improve your offensive line having Joe Toney at left guard rather. If it doesn't work, if DJ Humphries is struggling, you can always switch it up. It's easier to do that than the other way around. So I mean, if I find out for sure, if I find anything or hear anything that, like Nate said, we'll definitely share it. I do, like I said, I do think that the Chiefs would like for DJ Humphries to play left tackle. I think they would like to have the confidence in him. If they would like for Mahomes to have the confidence in him. If they do, then I think they're going to roll with that. And Sharon, this is kind of like I was alluding to in the first question about McCole and Nico. Can both Jalen Watson and McCole play Saturday, one on 53 and other elevated from practice squad? The talk implies one or the other, and I don't understand. That's okay, Sharon. Perfectly fine. It gets very confusing, especially this time of year. They're both on injured reserve. Neither one are part of the practice squad, and neither one of them can go to the practice squad. So, you couldn't do that without exposing them to waivers. You could do that maybe with McCole. You certainly wouldn't do it with Jalen Watson. But, they have one spot on the 53 right now, which from that, I said, putting Marlon Tuipulotu on injured reserve last week. So there is just one spot available. Now, McCole has until, I believe, Wednesday of next week is when his practice window closes, his 21-day window from being designated to return. Jalen's should expire on Friday, so they have another week for both of these guys that they can wait if they want to. If they wanted to activate one of them this week and add them to the 53, they only have one choice right now. They would have to make another move, whether that's injured reserve, whether it's placing someone on waivers. They would have to make another move. I don't necessarily see an obvious one. I mean, Nico is kind of alluded to. Nico Remigio, it is an option, but I just don't think that's going to happen. I mean, I think they want to, save. I think they want to keep Nico, and they don't want to risk the chance of putting him on waivers and losing him. So, I think the most logical, especially with the way that the practice time is going this week, with Jalen being full and McCole being limited, I would think a pretty good possibility would be for Jalen Watson to be added to the 53 this week. Maybe he plays if he's ready to play and give them some snaps this weekend. That would be the way to go. Wait on McCole, see what you get through against the Texans. If you've got any injuries that come out, maybe that spot becomes then McCole's spot. If it's another position where they need some depth and it comes from the practice squad, you have some options there, but they've got some choices at least. And if they do suffer some injuries, and obviously they've got some guys at their receiver group that you got to be concerned about as far as maybe getting banged up again or aggravating an injury, a pre-existing injury. So McCole gives them insurance. That's kind of why, Sharon, that you're hearing the talk about it's one or the other this week, unless there's another roster move. Next week, see what happens. So, and wait until the last possible minute is generally a Brett Veach way to go. I mean, they don't like to make roster moves until they have to, and I typically agree with that. Say you make a roster move today, put Jalen Watson on the 53, and then somebody gets banged up in practice tomorrow, and now you need to make another move. I mean, that's why a lot of times that Brett Veach does like to wait, and I can't fault him for it. So SH991 was on time by accident. I was also on time. I mean, I got here at 7:01. I mean, I was online 7:01. I would have been at 7 o'clock if I hadn't done one. I was checking to make sure that my headphones were working, so for when Nick got here, I could hear him. Otherwise, I would have been here at 7. So I'm pretty proud of that today. Andy Reid would not be proud of me for my punctuality, though. KC Harold, the discovery of an unsolicited Reese's cup that makes for a great day. Yes, for those of you who are not on Twitter X, yes, there was just a Reese's peanut butter cup at my desk today in the media workroom, and I mean, I didn't know who put it there. I didn't know who it belonged to. Am I eating that? Yes. Am I grateful for that? Absolutely. So, see, I didn't get any Reese's peanut butter cups for Christmas. So that to me was my Reese's peanut butter cup. And funny thing is that we haven't been in the building since I think January 3rd before the Broncos game. So it could have been there for 12 days, 11, 12 days. I don't know. So, but whoever put the Reese's peanut butter cup there, I do appreciate it. Maybe it was Nick. I don't know. I mean, Nick wasn't there today, but he could have done it, back on the third. Maybe I just missed it, or he did it after I left. So could have been anybody. And whoever it was, thank you very much. Chris, how many millions and millions of Sam Darnold cost himself by turning into a pumpkin last night? Probably a little bit. I mean, I don't think it was entirely Darnold's fault, but, if there was any team out there thinking that Sam Darnold was the next big thing and had made himself into an elite quarterback, probably rethinking it now. I don't know. Maybe he made some Carson Wentz some money, because now maybe some teams would decide to sign Carson Wentz to compete for their starting job or to tutor a young guy. Who knows? That was a tough one to watch last night. I was going back and forth on that game, and I don't know if I ever said it public or anything, but once they moved that game to State Farm, I had real, 2018 Chiefs Rams vibes for that game, that with everything that the Rams were going through, I mean, that was just still going to be a road game to the Vikings. But for the Rams, with everything that they had to go through to push themselves to get there for that game and worrying about everything at home, it felt like, because remember in that Rams-Chiefs 2018 game, there was the forest fires that were going on then. And the Rams had been away because they were preparing to go to Mexico City. So they'd gone to Colorado Springs to train that week for the train for altitude. So, that but they had the forest fires going on then, and they were all worried about that. Their families were evacuating, and obviously the Rams, played their hearts out that night. I kind of felt like the same thing was going to happen when that game got moved to State Farm. It was going to be the Rams against the world, and that's exactly how it kind of played out. So definitely a tough night for Sam Darnold. I mean, he did a great job game managing that team this season, but yeah, when things go south, they can go south in a hurry. Cody, thank you. I did. I checked my microphone several times. I'm trying to be in playoff mode here, Cody. I mean, hey, 701, Mike is on. Absolutely. Oh, hey, Jesus, your dog is in surgery. I am so sorry to hear that, man. What's your dog's name? Let us know. Definitely thinking of you, sending good vibes. I have not had a dog in a long time, but I have had many, many cats, and I guess not many cats, about 5 cats. And yeah, I've had them go through surgery, and that is not easy. So Jesus, thinking of you. Thank you for joining us. You are the best. Three-peat enthusiast Matt Derrick. I like the fact that it's taken a while, but you all are finally, picking up on the enthusiast moniker that I give Nick every single week. I try to make it something different on 41 as the mic. So but I'm glad you all are starting to pick it up. I'm starting to get some contributions from the public here. I'm really appreciating that. Steeman Demon. Chiefs are notorious for playing down to their opponents. Will the Chiefs overlook the Texans and get blown out? I just can't see that happening, Steeman Demon. I mean, I had to start making my first predictions today, and I'm in the 30-21 category Chiefs. I mean, I think they're the better team. The Texans had a great defensive performance. The Chargers played about as terrible as they could possibly play. I do put a lot of that on the Texans. I mean, they played very well defensively. They got after Herbert. They made him uncomfortable. They forced him to make a lot of mistakes. Herbert had an incredible year protecting the football, and then it just all fell apart on Saturday. So I give the Texans a lot of credit for putting that together and making it happen. But I think the Chiefs are still better. I think that the Texans offense is not the same as it was when they had Tank Dell. You look at some of the possessions they had. I mean, the defense for the Texans flat out scored 9 points of those 32. There was another field goal that I believe that the offense only gained 1 yard after the defense handed them the football on a turnover. So, I mean, there's easily 12 points that you can just say were on the defense, and that offense put up 20 points, 2 touchdowns, 2 field goals. And even on some of those other possessions, they had good field position. So I just don't see that offense being what it was. The defense, I mean, that entire team played at a really, really high level. A big part of my question is, can the Texans an indoor team. Let's face it. I mean, Houston and indoors. I mean, it's not Miami or anything, but there's some legitimacy to that. Can that team bring that same energy and enthusiasm and intensity 2 weeks in a row and against, I think, a much better team? I don't know about that. And I do think that this Chiefs team is going to be dialed in and ready. So I will be very surprised if the Chiefs were to get blown out. I think that would be my most stunning. I mean, could they fall behind 24-0 and have to make another comeback? Maybe, but I just don't think that's going to happen either. I mean, I think this team, I think there's enough guys around from 2019, 2018, 2019 to remember what happened then, to guard against that. I think this team realizes and understands that it's got to bring a high level of intensity and effort right when the playoffs start. So I think they'll be okay. Cody asking about how did Jalen Watson look. I mean, if you go over to my Twitter account on X and look at the video, you get pretty much what we saw today, which was just, the stretch period was the only thing open to the media. So it was the jogging and sidestepping. It wasn't a lot. It wasn't any football activity, nothing intense. I mean, looked fine. Certainly didn't look different than anybody else. Didn't look like he was favoring that ankle or leg in any way to me. So your mileage may vary. You can look at the video too and judge for yourself. I mean, I don't think we're going to really know for sure about Jalen until we see him on the football field. And if they decide that he's ready to play, then they'll be telling you at least Andy Reid liked what he saw this week. That's what he said, that they liked what they saw. If they liked what they saw, they need to see this week. He's really only had a couple of light practices under his belt. They got him pads, I think, once last week. This week, get him in pads again. That's what Andy Reid said, was that, he needs to see him take a hit this week. Not sure what's going to happen then. And, and then there's the question of just how much he can play, because Andy Reid might be sandbagging us, but did tell us that, he didn't think he was ready to play a full game, but could give him some snaps. So we'll see what happens. And yeah, like I said earlier, I don't remember if I had this up, Cody, when I was talking. I mean, it was a pretty quiet and intense room today. I mean, it was. I mean, I don't want to oversell it. I don't want to make it seem like everybody was just walking around looking for somebody to hit or anything. I mean, no, players were in a good mood. Andy, I thought, was pretty comfortable and relaxed. But you could tell, I mean, the locker room was quiet. There was just a lot of guys, kind of either keeping to themselves, looking at playbooks, resting up for practice. I mean, there were no hijinks going on today. Usually there's some goofing off, playing games, whatever it may be, talking, chatting and everything like that. There really wasn't a lot of that today. It was a quiet group. They were kind of, for the most part, keeping to themselves. And, and I, like I said, I felt like it was pretty positive, but I also felt like it was a group that would look pretty serious and pretty intense. So, and Jesus, congratulations to the Mahomes family. Absolutely. I know that Patrick and Brittany were definitely circling the bye week and for that to get everything. And Golden Ray Mahomes, you knew that they were going to be using another medal. I also give a tip of the cap to my colleague Dave Stretta over at the Associated Press, who got the privilege of writing his own headline that started with Golden Child and the Golden Child, which, anytime you can use a 1980s Eddie Murphy film in your headline, you are doing quality work. So I definitely have to give a tip of the hat to Dave Stretta for that one. Chris, if I say the Chiefs, Lions, and Eagles games will all be over by halftime this weekend, what do you say? I honestly, I mean, I wouldn't. Well, Chiefs games are never over by halftime. So, I mean, if you're saying that, Chris, I'd almost be worried that maybe they are going to get blown out. The Chiefs never blow anybody out by halftime. Come on. The Lions and Eagles. I mean, I think the Rams are going to put up a fight. So I think that will be a bit more of a tougher, closer game. Washington, I have no idea what to expect. I mean, my feeling on the Commanders all along was that they have such a range of they had the widest range of outcomes of any team in the playoffs. I felt like that they could have gone out in the wild card round and they could win the Super Bowl. I mean, it's just that wide of range because, if Jaden Daniels gets hot on a certain particular day, they can beat anybody. I will say that based on what I saw from them the other night on Saturday night, now remember because no, they can play on Sunday. Excuse me. Get my week's roster because I feel like today should be a Wednesday when it's actually a Tuesday. These Saturday games throw me off. But if they play like they did in that game against Tampa, they're not going to put up much of a fight. So I think they got to put together a cleaner performance than that. But they've got the potential in them. They've got the potential to also be beaten up pretty bad. So that's the one I think it could get out of hand. That could end up because I think the Lions are going to come up pretty serious. So yes, SH1991. I know my lightning round is slow-mo, but we're going to try tonight. We're going to try. So Brian, were the Texans missing any major components last time around that have since returned? Tank Dell, exactly Tyreek. Come on, man. No, Tank Dell is not Tyreek, but he was an important part of that team. And, Texans, that injury really hurt them in that particular game. I mean, emotionally, they just fell apart. So, and I separate that from just how that they have looked since then, because obviously you put aside the emotional component of that and you compartmentalize that and you move forward, next man up, all that mentality, but they're just not as dimensional without Tank Dell. I mean, he was just a piece that made life easier for Nico Collins, made life easier for CJ Stroud. Now, they're not as dimensional. I don't think that they can stretch a defense as much without him. I'm trying to think. I can't think of anything. I mean, they also lost some offensive linemen in that game that they've gotten back. Injury-wise, I think that they're in pretty decent shape. I don't know if there's anybody major that's returned that wasn't there. I'd have to go back and look at the notes because I can't remember for sure. Maybe somebody else is thinking of somebody out there that didn't play last time around that will be back this time. Tank Dell, I think, is the biggest component because what they were able to do against the Chiefs when Tank Dell was on the field, that was scary. I don't think they're going to be able to do that. I don't think they're going to be able to repeat that first half performance against the Chiefs this time. Kent, now that the opponents are set, who do you think the Chiefs will host on opening night next year? All right. Now you are, tempting fate a little bit by assuming that if the Chiefs are playing on opening night, they're either playing there because they won the Super Bowl, or I guess they're playing on the road at the team that won the Super Bowl. I have been looking at this, and I'm trying to pull it up because I know I've got the list of opponents up and everything for next year. I don't think they're going to do a divisional opponent, although any of the divisional opponents could be interesting, especially, I guess you wait and decide what the Raiders are going to do with their head coach. I'm watching Nick in the green room, and I'm not sure if he's telling me he's ready to go or he's trying to give me two high fives. Oh, he's ready to go. All right.
I like messing with you while you're busy reading. It's my favorite pastime.
Well, I wasn't sure if you were trying to give me two high fives.
For people that don't know what I was doing this to Matt while he's trying to be, while he's trying to be professional. Just like that.
Yes, he was.
So now you all have experienced what Matt experienced. Congratulations. Hope it was everything you dreamed it would be.
Welcome to opening night schedule enthusiast Nick Jacobs.
Why are we worried about next September? Get out of here with that nonsense. I don't have time for that.
Come on. We both kind of like talking about this.
No, can't say that I do. Most important time of the year that we talk about all year long starts this weekend. And you're over here worrying about September 2025 problems. Get that nonsense out of here. I don't have time for it.
Well, I don't have time for it, but I do enjoy it. I mean, it's not going to be the end of if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl and they are hosting the opening night game, it won't be the Indianapolis Colts. I can safely say that. It could almost be anybody else in the schedule because the rest of the home schedule is pretty entertaining. I mean, you got the AFC West, you got the Eagles, you got the Commanders, you got the Ravens, you got the Lions. I mean, it's going to be another brutal schedule next year.
No, I got to say to that, Matt.
What you got to say to that? Don't care.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
We're
I will
in the
tell you
real
my
world right now, and the real world is trying to complete the trifecta right now. That's the world I'm living in.
I will say this, that, I mean, if I'm the NFL, I probably am drooling at the opportunity to get the Chiefs and the Commanders into a really great window at some point. So if you don't see that this year. So
I'm more of a January 2025 problem man myself right now.
You know, Nick is laughing. Crazy first question. I don't know if you were watching.
I was not, man. I was filling out the voting for the PFWA that's due tomorrow.
I need to finish that myself.
I know. I got 3 more left. I did the first one, though. I picked my executive of the year and the coaches and first team.
There you go. Anybody? Any selections you want to reveal?
Are we allowed to? I don't know if we're allowed.
You are allowed to. Yes.
Are you sure about that, Kansas City chapter president?
I am sure about that. Yes. You are not required to make your ballot public, but you may make your ballot public.
If this gets tampered with, I'm not going to be happy with you.
The first question was about Jalen Watson, but more specifically about is McCole or Nico for the playoffs?
So. Okay. I mean, I would go with Nico right now, and McColl's kind of in case of emergency over the next couple weeks. But the 21-day window might be coming up pretty soon. So it's
next week, so they'd have to make a decision before the AFC Championship game. But
that's a next week problem. Everybody out here always trying to make problems for themselves, like it's something we have to actually worry about. We don't have to worry about it. That's what the Chiefs get paid for.
Chiefs enthusiast. There you go.
That's right, because we're trying to complete a Chiefs here. If you're a Chiefs enthusiast,
that's much better term than paying Pat Riley for the three-peat.
Matt, that's what I'm here for. Okay, it's called problem solving. I just solved a problem. You call it the Chiefs-fecta.
Solve some copyright issues.
It's the Chiefs-fecta, and it lives till the end of time.
There you go. So did you have any selections that you wanted to reveal from your
ballot? Yeah, I was actually taking a screenshot, but now I got to make it into a
PDF.
No, I don't make things into PDFs because that's complicated. I don't have that. I'm waiting for Final Cut to open up here so we can get to that part. I may even have a rant for you tonight. Let's see if people can find that Easter egg, though. It's the fun journey we have every week. Can you find the Easter egg that allows me to rant?
You can try and use the share screen option if you'd like. So
I don't know, but I don't know if I want to share my whole screen with you. You
don't have to share the whole screen. You can just share a window. So
let's see, Matt.
All right. Well, you're doing that. I am going to bring up Jagar22's question. Do you have any worries going into the playoffs? What is Kansas City's top weakness? I mean, any worries that I honestly have about this team are going to be matchup specific, and I'm against the Texans. I mean, my biggest concern on this is simply going to be the Chiefs tackles against the Texans defensive line, their defensive ends, because even though, Will Anderson and Daniel Hunter didn't, dominate the last matchup, and the Chiefs kind of held their own pretty well. We really don't know what we're going to get from the offensive line, especially the tackles. I think it's a good thing that Jawan Taylor, can't pronounce Jawan Taylor's name. Jawan's had a couple of weeks to rest that strained knee, and that should help out. Whomever the Chiefs start at left tackle is going to be somebody that they're confident in. That to me is where it starts with the Texans defense. You got to worry about their interior too, but I have got no concerns about the Chiefs interior. Even if it's Toney at left tackle and Caliendo at left guard, the interior can handle the Texans, the tackles. So I don't have a huge issue there. It's just, you got to protect Mahomes and you got to make sure he's comfortable. And if he's comfortable and can pick apart the Texans secondary, Stingley is a great player. Don't get me wrong, but Stingley's benefited it benefits when the Texans get pressure, and they pressured Herbert a lot. If like 50%, what was that when we talked about, Nick? 50% of his dropbacks, he got pressured.
Yeah, Herbert's past week.
Yeah. I mean, if they get 50% of the pressure on Mahomes' dropbacks, Patrick Mahomes is going to have some problems too. I just don't think that's going to happen. I mean, but that's the teeth of the Texans defense. So, I mean, and any issues I would have going forward, Nick, will be, more matchup specific if they make it to the AFC Championship game. Because like I said, I just don't have any concerns about this team as they're constituted right now.
Matt, I just put it in the file category for you.
All right, let's pop it up. And pop it up. And I don't know if I can zoom in or not. You might be able to zoom in. I'm not sure.
I don't know. Matt, I don't know. Oh, that one. Let's see. If I do that, that's just me. You probably can't see it any bigger than you could before. That's just me. No.
I can at least make it so that we can see everything, but I can't make it bigger.
So, Offensive Player of the Year, I made it Barkley. Patrick Surtain, I made Defensive Player of the Year. MVP, I think I made Josh Allen, but the top banner's cutting that off. Rookie of the Year, Jaden Daniels. Brock Bowers, Offensive Player of the Year. Quinyon Mitchell, really good corner for the Eagles. I put him there. Comeback Player of the Year, I put Joe Burrow because he messed up his wrist and he came back and had the year that he did with that throwing wrist, and that was early on and everything. Jerry Jeudy, I put Most Improved because once he got a change of scenery to Cleveland, he really improved. I was debating between Sam Darnold and him, and I was like, a lot of people are going to go with Darnold. I want to go with Jerry Jeudy. Andy Reid, Coach of the Year, just because, might as well do it, although Dan Campbell's going to win for most people. Brad Holmes, Executive of the Year, I put out there just because what they've done with that roster in Detroit from where it was a handful of years ago and what they're able to do. Assistant Coach of the Year, I ended up putting Liam Cohen because he did a lot with a little in Tampa Bay. Quarterback, obviously Josh Allen, Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jamar Chase, the receiver, Justin Jefferson, both had phenomenal years. Brock Bowers is arguably the best tight end in the NFL right now. Creed, I obviously put as center. Below that, Trey Smith is the guard, and then Landon Dickerson, I made the other guard because those are the most dominant guards in the NFL. I know people aren't going to agree, and they're going to want 18 different Chiefs on here, but that's just not. It's not the real world, people. Now we're going to go to the defensive side of the ball once that pops up. Here we are. I put Tristan Wirfs and Deion Dawkins as the top two tackles. They're the two best tackles in the league. Wirfs can play like left and right tackle. That's what makes him so good. Defensive end, Myles Garrett and Trey Hendrickson were the best in the league this year. Chris Jones and Dexter Lawrence are the best. I know Lawrence got hurt around Thanksgiving, but he was having a dominant year. Him and Chris both were. And they would frighten defenses together. And another guy that would have that I think would have been in there would have been Christian Wilkins if he didn't break his foot in like week 4, week 5. I debated about Max Crosby because, I mean, he's just a one-man wrecking crew, but Garrett and Hendrickson had a little bit better overall numbers. Zach Bond, I made outside linebacker. I put TJ Watt in there. It's kind of a cop-out, but there's just not a lot of elite linebackers out there at outside linebacker, inside linebacker. There was like 5 you could put in there, but Fred Warner's the best. Obviously, Stingley, Patrick Surtain 2.0, so I like to call him. Kirby Joseph, I had there. Kyle Hamilton, really dominant, strong safety. Place kicker, Boswell. Tommy Townsend and Jack Fox are kind of the 1-2 of punters. Turpin's one of the best kick returners. Marvin Mims, one of the best. And then Patriots, special teamer that I put there. He's one of the best in the league that I've gotten to watch this year. So I was not upset. It's Brandon Schuler. So
there you go.
There is my PFWA first team. And now that I've said that, my vote will be null and void.
Will not be null and void. We have many similarities, a few differences. Like I said, I haven't finished mine yet.
Yeah, Matt, you said you haven't voted yet. Okay,
I haven't finished my vote yet. So I mean, I have a couple. I mean, I am putting Trent McDuffie ahead of one of the corners that you have.
That's fine.
So, but that's once again, your mileage may vary. So
It does.
But because you did it now, once I finish mine, I will also make my ballot public. So I won't leave you alone,
Matt.
Nick. I won't leave you alone, Nick.
I want to believe you, Matt. I really do.
It will
really
be out there.
You're gonna have to put it on the next Q&A. That's where you're gonna have to put it on.
How did that happen? I know what happened. Okay, there we go. Excellent.
I haven't even looked at the comment section because I'm sure people are judging me already.
Well, we'll get to the judging of you here in a moment, but had a couple of while you were doing the reveal of the ballot, had a couple of super chat questions come in. So I'm going to jump to that real quick. Scott, thoughts on Rex Ryan saying the Texans will beat the Chiefs today? I mean, I heard about that, and I did think about a little bit of just has Rex Ryan bet on the Chiefs and is just trying to give bulletin board material so that Chiefs will have something to go on. But then again, there's the other part of it, which is that Chiefs really don't care what Rex Ryan says.
So for people that haven't been locked in on it, I only found out about it when I was watching on Sunday, the Sunday morning show. Rex Ryan called the Houston Texans the Chargers bye week last week. So then Miko Ryans mentioned that in the post-game locker room, and Rex had to apologize and eat crow Sunday morning for what he said. So he's going on the opposite end of the pendulum now.
He is overcorrecting.
Correct. So he's going to do that. So he, and that's just how that's going to go on that front. And Rex knows he'll probably be wrong. He doesn't care, but he doesn't want to be the post-game speech of the Houston Texans again. So he's going to say that. I mean, I never would have personally said that the Texans are the Chargers bye week because you just never know in the NFL when a team can or can't turn it on, and Rex should know better than that because he's coached in the league before. But Rex has to say those things to stay relevant and to keep attention out there so he can, fingers crossed, in his book, become the head coach of the Jets again, which is what he's after. But if he's really smart, he should want to go be head coach of the Jaguars. And if Deion Sanders passes on the Cowboys job, maybe the Cowboys, because he'll be relevant all the time. But Rex is desperate enough to where if the Jaguars called and said, hey, we'd really like to interview, I could totally see him doing that. I think he's desperate to get in the NFL, and I don't think he enjoys doing the ESPN analyst stuff personally.
Which is a shame because, I mean, it's the only job he's going to get. If there is a team that even considers hiring Rex Ryan as their head coach, I mean, Roger Goodell's just going to step in and say, I mean, are you guys even trying? Are you serious? Is this a tax write-off? What are you trying to do here? Because, I mean, no, Rex Ryan, bless his heart. Since he's gone into broadcasting, he has just been, a clown. I mean, I don't get the sense that Rex Ryan is working hard and watching film every single week or doing anything like this. Because honestly, most of his opinions have just been scatterbrained most of the time. So,
but part of that is that keeps getting you headlines if you say some of the things that he does.
Get you headlines, but I mean, I'm not necessarily going to hire somebody as my head coach who makes headlines for saying things that are stupid.
But that's what he's supposed to. That's when you sell yourself differently in an actual meeting. Because if you're in an interview meeting as a head coach, you're giving them your plan, what you're going to do culture wise, what you do organization wise. That's a whole different ball game. So who he is with the owners may be completely different than what ESPN is wanting him to be for ratings. I'm just saying.
I can't imagine that Rex Ryan has a plan for anything right now.
Matt, you are treating him like he is a bye week himself.
I feel, I could be completely wrong. The vibe I get from Rex Ryan, and honestly, I'll tell you what, I kind of got this vibe from John Gruden when he came back, and there's been some other coaches that fit into the same category. I'll tell you what, I'll give you one coach who did not fit into the same category to a degree, was Dick Vermeil. Because when Dick Vermeil came back, part of, him coming back was just that, he was just, he was one of those guys that just worked too hard and burned himself out and, couldn't last. He came back but you know what? He was a different coach when he came back. We've seen a lot of coaches that they come back after an absence from the league and they come back with the exact same plan for having a culture and an organization that they had 10 years ago. And things have changed. It's not the same. You can't do things the same way. And Rex Ryan strikes me as a guy who probably has not updated his book on how to be a head coach since 2013.
I don't know. We're not in the meetings with the owners, so I can't confirm either way.
I did such a good job of adjusting my microphone so I could hear Nick, and then I unplugged my microphone accidentally.
Oh, no.
So, Scott, those are our thoughts on Rex Ryan. That went quickly from Rex Ryan, his comments on the Chiefs, to then our judgment on Rex Ryan as a head coach. Jesus, is it nonsense that the Chiefs coaches don't get hired for head coaches because they're in the Super Bowl every season? I mean, the last few years, Nick, I mean, Chiefs, since Matt Nagy got hired, it hasn't really been any Chiefs coaches that have gotten serious looks at being a head coach. This is the first time it's really happened.
So here's what I'll say on this front. The way they've set up the interview process this year allowed the Chiefs coaches and, potential GM candidates to kind of get first crack and not be punished for the team's success. I still think there's some stuff the league needs to tweak with everything that I'd personally like to see to be able to kind of really put it in a certain form to where nobody gets punished that's in the playoffs. Because, there's some coaches this week that are going to interview now from wildcard weekend that will get their opportunity. But I do like that they've tried to even the scales a little bit more to not punish guys who have success, because those are the assistant coaches and potential GM candidates that you really want to be talking to, because they know what success is right now. Whether that's the Buffalo Bills, the Baltimore Ravens, the Chiefs, the Detroit Lions, the Philadelphia Eagles, like all those organizations, they've been there, done that in the playoffs on a regular basis. And everybody's tried to pick clean the Sean McVay tree. So, and you see how well that's doing with Kevin O'Connell with where he's at. So, and Liam Cohen technically with the Bucks. So, there's just a lot of the Sean McVay tree that has been taken to this point to where there may not be as much left on that front right now, and it needs a couple of years to kind of restock and refresh on that front. But with all that combined, the problem I think the Chiefs coaches have is I think far too often they get punished for Patrick Mahomes being who he is as a quarterback and Andy Reid being who he is as a head coach. And I think people assume far too often that those guys are what it's all about. And if you don't have those guys, then it's just not going to work in their organization. But the smart owners, here's what an owner has to do. And this is what an owner should be doing. You should be interviewing every member of that Chiefs organization you possibly can if you are an owner of another NFL team right now. The reason why is you need to learn what it is about them, what it is with the mindset, why is it so successful? So even if you don't hire those coaches, you have a better blueprint of why things are working in Kansas City and what can fit with your organization. So the smart owners right now are technically the Jets, the Titans organization, and the Jaguars for at least doing that interview, and the Raiders. But you got Tom Brady there. So Tom Brady is really actually, I would not stun me if Tom Brady comes out of this hiring round looking the smartest, because he's helping advise the Raiders that'll put them in the correct direction. The Patriots get Mike Vrabel, so they've won the head coaching sweepstakes. Jerry Jones is going to we'll break it down this way. And I know I'm long-winded on this one, I apologize. But Jerry Jones is going to do whoever stays out of his way so he can roster build and be relevant and talk all the time in front of the media. That's what he's going to do. The Trent Baalke, the Jaguars GM, he's clearly got the owner to believe in what he's selling. And so he's going to want a head coach that's not going to rock the boat and cause him and the owner to have a rift. So is that what's best for the Jaguars as an organization or winning? No, but it's what's best for Trent Baalke. So again, that's the thing we've talked about time and time again, to keep the checks clearing. That's what some people are going to do. They're going to look out for their interests over what's best for fan bases to see teams in the playoffs. The Saints is another thing. Mickey Loomis, he creates cap problems every year, and every coach that goes down there, they're not given the opportunity to put the best roster together possible. They've just got to coach what's available to them. And so Loomis is going to make sure that whoever the coach is somebody that doesn't get more power than he does over time and gets in his way so he can keep destroying that roster and keep the checks clearing. The Jets may end up being one of the more smart ones that hires a GM and head coaching tandem that see things the same way and do things the same way. The problem I think Ryan Poles has in Chicago right now is the fact that last time I don't think he got to pick the head coach. I'm just going to tell you that point blank. I think he had a shotgun wedding with Matt Eberflus, and they said, good luck to you both, have fun. But now Ryan Poles is in a situation where he's got to really fight for the type of head coach that shares a similar vision and player building that he does, so that he can keep his job down the road here, and he's not forced out for somebody that's a buddy of the future head coach. So that's going to be that part of it. So each one of those organizations, and you look at the Titans already have a head coach in place. They've already got an unofficial general manager in place, and they're looking for an assistant GM that they're calling a general manager, and the NFL is going to look into to make sure that it's not an incorrect title. So like there's that aspect to it. So each one of those organizations, they're not all looking for the same thing, but the smart organizations are looking to try to interview anybody that's been a part of consistent success, why they've been a part of it, and have a notebook and write it down and learn from them, because they may not interview them this time, but there may be something down the road where you're like, I really loved what Steve Spagnuolo said in 2024, and it's now 2026 or 2027. We should bring him in for a look or something like that. So that's the long-winded way of saying smart organizations are always fact-finding and always learning and always trying to improve, even in the interview process, even if they're not going to hire that candidate.
Which does actually baffle me that the Jets and the Jaguars are doing some smart things, because these are typically two of the teams that are in my 8 teams that don't know what they're doing at any particular moment in time. And I mean, hey, I got some serious concerns about the things that you hear about the Jets and what comes out of that organization. And that's also, frankly, another reason why I wouldn't hire Rex Ryan as my head coach, because when you talk about building a culture, man didn't build a culture with the Jets. He existed in a culture that already exists and continued to exist, and things just never got better. And they had a really good team that never accomplished anything. But your mileage may vary once again. But to your point, yes. I mean, the NFL, I think, did the Chiefs coaches a lot of favors about making it easier for them to interview for jobs. I will once again say that and reiterate that if teams don't want to hire somebody because they're afraid to wait a week or two until they're done playing the Super Bowl, then you're a moron. Because if the right person for the job is not available for 2 weeks, nothing is going to happen. You're not going to lose anything. I mean, you're not going to miss out on anything. Wait for your guy, because if you hire your second favorite or your third favorite coach, chances are it's not going to work out. So,
and I love the irony in the fact that you don't want to wait for them because they may be playing in the Super Bowl. And if you're really serious about trying to win a Super Bowl, those are the people you should be waiting for. Because you remember the Chiefs waited for Todd Haley to get done playing coaching in that Super Bowl as the offensive coordinator of the Arizona Cardinals back then. Did it work out? No. Did Scott Pioli want somebody he could control? Yes. But but it didn't work out, and Todd and him parted ways. But that was the guy that I got a feeling Bill Parcells strongly encouraged Scott on, and that was the road they went down.
I still wonder. It feels like a hazing. Doesn't it feel like a hazing?
What?
Like Bill Belichick was hazing Scott Pioli. Like, oh yeah, you should hire Todd as your coach.
No, Bill Parcells, his father-in-law. That's who I was referencing.
Oh, okay. Well, could have
because Todd worked for Bill Parcells in Dallas.
That's true. Yes,
and
that's right. Yep.
So I got a feeling, since Scott's married to Bill Parcells' daughter, I got a feeling that that was. I felt like that had a lot of Parcells influence in that hire.
Oh, maybe he just hated his son-in-law then.
I don't think he didn't want what was best for his daughter and his granddaughter, personally.
Pie Desert. Kickers are people too. What do you think about the potential punter gauntlet? Houston Townsend, Buffalo, Ariza Connection, Detroit, Jack Fox. I mean, my first thing that stands out about this is that
All three have played for the Chiefs at some point.
Dave Tobe has an eye for talent when it comes to punters.
Agreed.
Yes. I mean, it would be very intriguing. And yes, I mean, hey, the Ariza connection with Buffalo would be very intriguing. All these guys are great punters, and Dave Tobe knows what he's talking about. That's my big takeaway, Pie Desert. I mean, I think it's just you're pretty lucky that you got Dave Tobe that's able to identify talent, and frankly, kicking talent too. Because look what he did this year with 3 different kickers.
That's right, Matt. That is right.
Chris, Hard Rock Stadium feels more like a soccer stadium, but it is a good place to watch a football game. Much better than State Farm in Arizona. Who do you have in the college championship game?
I'm gonna be rooting for Notre Dame, but Ohio State, they've been very competitive in every game, and they got a lot of guys that are going to play in the NFL down the road here.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I have a little bit of an internal anti-Big Ten bias, and I can't really explain why. But and as a kid, I did grow up, being encouraged to root for Notre Dame. So I kind of feel like I maybe should rebel against that a little bit. I really don't know. I mean, honestly, I'm very apathetic in this game. I really am fairly indifferent to whichever team wins. Although I think it would probably be more entertaining if Notre Dame won. But I think I'd be happy for K-State fans who are rooting for Will Howard if he were to win the national championship. I think that'd be pretty cool. But I'm kind of indifferent, Nick. I mean, Ohio State's the better team. Better team doesn't always win though.
Ohio State has a lot more NFL caliber players. Notre Dame, we'll see.
We'll see. Infopocalypse, what do you think the hidden wrinkle the Chiefs have been saving for the postseason that we might finally see?
Oh, I have no idea, but I'm looking forward to what they call an offense this upcoming week, and if they break a lot of the tendencies they've had on first and second downs and keep the Texans guessing.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit on it, Nick. I mean, I don't think it's any particular wrinkle. I mean, there's always the potential for misdirection and just some interesting play calls. But for me, yeah, it's can you break the mold of what people think you are and just start throwing them off the trail? And that's kind of what I just want to see. Yeah, I want to see if the Chiefs can mix it up and prove that they're not maybe the team that everybody thinks that they are.
Yeah, I'm hoping the Chiefs can have a very dominant performance on offense and really put this game out of reach very quickly, so the pundits can't continue to say that the Chiefs are lucky, or they can, but they look like how Matt feels about Rex Ryan.
Andrew came up with the stat. I had not heard this stat yet, Nick. So maybe you already did. But the Chiefs are 6-0 with Clay Martin.
People have been tweeting this out all day because
they
want to do their ref conspiracy stuff.
Well, unless Clay Martin goes over to the bench to talk to Patrick Mahomes during the game, I mean, is it really?
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Like people are looking for any reason about why their team isn't where the Chiefs are. And they've settled on the refs is their biggest one right now. That's the one for some reason that they're pretty locked in on. Not sure why. But
I am on team, however, that if a referee came over and talked to Mahomes the way that the referee did with Josh Allen on Sunday, that social media applications would have absolutely shut down. I mean, they would have crashed from the outrage.
Yeah. So in terms of Clay Martin, for people that are wondering, the game he did this year was the Chiefs Raiders on Black Friday. So he was a part of the snap issue. Then he did the game in Germany last year for the Chiefs versus the Dolphins. Doesn't look like he did one in 2023. And I don't see his name in 2022. He did the Chiefs-Browns divisional round game, and then he did the game where the Chiefs played the Dolphins in December of 2020 when Tyreek was still here. And then he did a Chiefs-Raiders game back in 2019. The Chiefs won that one 28-10. So
there you go. Well,
and I can go back further, but at that point, it doesn't involve the Mahomes era anymore.
Well, I've already expressed my feeling that I think the Chiefs will move to 7-0 with Clay Martin as the official, but won't put you on the hook, Nick, for making a prediction because I know you won't.
Matt, there's a lot I can rant about. The referee record isn't one of them.
Oh, Paul, with so many Chiefs key players contracts coming due, it seems Brett Veach has to hit a home run. What is the gold standard? Is 2022 the best Chiefs draft in history? Thoughts?
The best draft in Chiefs history was their first round pick in 2017. That's the best one in Chiefs history because you got the quarterback you needed to help you. That's when a franchise has true success, is when they have their own homegrown quarterback that they're able to do it with. So now you can't have that standard every year, and I know we want to continue to lock in on the 2022 draft because of how much it was able to work for them. So in terms of during the Mahomes era, yes, that is one of the better drafts they've had in franchise history, and that one potentially rivals the Chiefs 1996 draft for people that are like, what was in 1996? 1996 was Jerome Woods, Reggie Tongue, John Browning, Donnie Edwards, and Joe Horn. Those were their first picks. So Jeff Smith was a quality center, but I don't think he did a ton. Joe Horn didn't have a lot of success in Kansas City because they rarely used him, but he went on to go be a rock star with the Saints. Donnie Edwards was here until Greg Robinson, then that issue happened. John Browning was a really talented defensive tackle. Reggie Tongue and Jerome Woods roamed that secondary for quite a while. So
I was so mad when Joe Horn signed with the Saints. I was like, how could this team let Joe Horn go? Because he just seemed like he was on the edge of a breakout. And it turned out he was.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, during that time, when he left here, I need to double check this, but I want to double check this real quick. Yeah, okay. So Mike McCarthy was the Chiefs quarterbacks coach from 95 to 98. And then he became the Saints offensive coordinator from 2000 to 2004. And when Joe Horn went to the Saints, I think Mike McCarthy was a big, big reason why Joe Horn ended up with the New Orleans Saints. And what do you know? Joe Horn went to the Saints in 2000. So Mike McCarthy got to see firsthand as a quarterback's coach what Joe Horn could do. And when the time became available and he was in a position, he clearly told them, hey, that Joe Horn guy you should probably go get. And then they did. And then magic happened. But, yeah, in terms of kind of answering the question overall, I mean, 2020, Willie Gay was a quality backer there. Didn't always know the scheme, but very athletic. L'Jarius Sneed was a sneaky good pick. Mike Dana was a sneaky good pick. So in each draft, if you're able to honestly hit on 3 to 4 players, in the 2021 draft, I mean, Nick Bolton fit the scheme. Creed Humphries going to be here for quite some time. Noah Gray's finally starting to kind of turn into the tight end I think they wanted. And Trey Smith was a guy who shouldn't have been there in the 6th round, but was. So, I mean, between that 2021 and 2022 draft class, those are the classes that have really kind of helped the Chiefs be able to maintain what they're trying to do and who they've wanted to become. So if you have 2 good years back-to-back like that where you can get 4 or more, that's kind of what you're shooting for, to where they can be role players, if not starters.
Well, here's my quick question then, because I agree. I mean, the Chiefs had a couple of really good drafts back-to-back there, and we'll see. I mean, you never know. Longer term, wait, 4, 5, 6 more years might look a little bit different, because right now, I mean, the 2016 Chiefs draft will probably have two Pro Football Hall of Famers in it, with Chris Jones and Tyreek Hill.
So we're doing past Brett Veach?
Well, I mean, we're just talking about best drafts in Chiefs history.
Okay.
I'm going to throw the 2016 draft in there.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it, yes.
There's a Kavari Russell in there, and there's a Kevin Hogan in there, but you also flipped a Parker Enger for Travaris Ward.
Right. And then Eric Murray's still playing in the league with the
Eric Murray
Texans.
is 9 years in the league.
DeMarcus is still playing right now, technically, with the Rams.
Yeah, you got 4 guys who are, might play 10 years in the league in that draft, and 2 of them might go to the Hall of Fame.
But again, that kind of goes back to what I'm talking about, to where if you have 4 guys in the league if you have 4 guys in that draft class that can be at minimum role players and not starters, whether it's your team or another, then your scouting department did pretty well. And anything past that is just gold.
There you go. All right, here's a question I've already answered, but it's your turn, Nick.
Yeah.
You were waiting for it. I know you were.
I knew it was going to come. I'm just surprised it's the first time I've dealt with it tonight.
We just need the take on it after you hear what Andy Reid had to say on Tuesday. DJ Humphries is healthy. Are the Chiefs putting him at left tackle, or will Joe Toney start? What's your take, Nick?
I'm in the Chiefs' shoes. I'm starting with Joe Toney, and I'm not rocking the boat. But I think you had the best answer possible that needs to be reiterated over and over again. And since you and I both know a lot of people listen to our thing and it magically ends up on other shows during the week, I thought you had the best answer possible. What makes Patrick Mahomes comfortable is what you should be going with. So in Andy Reid's mind, he needs to prepare for every scenario. So having DJ Humphries rotate in there, having Joe Toney rotate in there, that is good for hypothetical scenarios that they may face, and they're both getting reps. What makes Patrick Mahomes most comfortable is what they need to do at the end of the day. What helps their offense is if DJ Humphries can play near 100% of what he's capable of, and if Joe Toney can play at left guard, it gives them better overall balance in terms of both run and pass. But also with DJ Humphries, I just don't think he's going to be at the 100% that fans are wanting a left tackle to be, because he's not going to be anywhere near that until next September. Like, that's the reality of coming off an ACL when he did. So I think it's going to take him another full year before he's really kind of where he probably wants to be and where the Chiefs would like him to be if they use a tackle for them. So I think they're going to be prepared for all scenarios. Whenever I watch tape of him, I think DJ still favors that leg and doesn't have 100% complete confidence in it. And that might be mental, and that may just be something that he has to work through. But if he's able to get to what they need at that tackle spot, I think it helps them with a lot of parts of the offense.
There you go. You got Nick's take right there.
Only time I'm going to answer it, too.
I already answered it, so I figured there's no reason to weigh in again. Mr. M, if the Chiefs want to have both Remigio and Hardman on the active roster, could they waive Keith Taylor and just elevate Steven Nelson every playoff game via standard elevation to fill the room? I mean, it's an option. I mean, I still get the sense that they think of Steven Nelson as break glass in case of emergency. But if you get Jalen Watson back, does that make Keith Taylor expendable potentially? I mean, there's a few little roster maneuvers that could come in there, but to me, Nick, I mean, it's for the Chiefs, it's a little bit of what do you want this week? I mean, if you think Jalen Watson is ready to play, you got a spot on the 53, you can give that to him and see how you come out of this game. If you need an injury, if you have an injury issue and you need Mecole Hardman next week, you got that option. If you need more cornerback depth, you've got that option. I mean, there's a few different choices. I mean, they obviously right now, though, they got 2 guys on IR, 1 spot open. So if they want both of those guys back, they are going to have to make another move at some point. I just don't know if they want both of those guys back or if they can, if they're ready to come back.
I think they're going to play it by ear right now and decide what they end up needing down the road here. So I think one of them would be potentially be back this week, and I think another one would come back the following week. But for what they personally need, cornerback is probably the spot no matter who's out there, whether it's Keith Taylor, Steven Nelson, Jalen Watson, whoever, Matt Damon, whoever they want to put out there at corner. The Chiefs last time, where the Chiefs have kind of gotten in trouble from time to time, and against the Texans on the December 21st game, is when there are 3 options they have to cover in the passing game. So whenever they had to cover Tank Dell, when they had to cover take care of Dalton Schultz, and then when they had to be mindful of Nico Collins, they were able to effectively take 2 away. They weren't able to take 3 away. And then when they were able to take a couple of them away, then they started doing the tight end delay in the flats when the Chiefs would drop into coverage at the sticks, or they would check it down to a running back. Occasionally they use Hutchinson the receiver, but that was their break glass in case of emergency because the other things aren't working. But what gets CJ Stroud into a rhythm is throwing the ball to Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz. That's what gets him in the rhythm. So those are the first things you have to take away from him. You take those things away from him, and you have enough corners to do that. Then that helps you solve a lot of problems and helps your pass rush out to force CJ Stroud to hold on the ball and make some poor throws and force some interceptions.
Couldn't said it better myself. I've been trying to do lightning round, Nick.
Good luck to you. I don't even know where we're at question-wise right now. We're probably still in the 7 o'clock range.
You don't want to know. Brent, who are some of the rookies that have impressed you this season throughout the NFL? Do you have any favorite rookies, Nick?
You'll find out when I put together my all-rookie team.
You put your all-rookie team out there?
For the Pro Football Writers Association. But until then, I ain't telling.
Keep it secret. I'll let you. I'll allow it.
We can reveal that in the Q&A next week.
I will say, I mean, if I had to pick a potential Hall of Famer out of this group of rookies this year, I think my choice would probably be Brock Bowers. I just think he's going to be
should be everybody's choice.
He's just going to be a nightmare for Chiefs fans in the AFC West for 10 years.
And I know he was on the Chiefs' radar. They just knew they weren't going to be able to get up to get him.
Yeah. Obviously, we're both Joe Alt fans, I assume. I mean, we still are.
Joe Alt didn't do anything wrong in that Texans game. I can tell you that right now. That one that came from his side, that was a protection they called slide left. But CJ Stroud seemed to forget that, hey, we called a slide left here. I should probably keep tabs on the one guy I told us not to block. Because they were worried about the two backers blitzing inside. So Joe Alt took the guy that they had in their protection, and CJ Stroud for whatever reason, Herbert for whatever reason, he didn't really. He's like, yeah.
I mean, and if you're a Chiefs fan, I mean, Xavier Worthy has had a great year. I mean, I know the Athletic came out with their list, and I think he was among their top 8 receivers. Of rookie receivers. I think that's great. I mean, there's no doubt about there. So, and Jaden Daniels has been impressive. I just don't know how much Jaden Daniels is going to hold up over his career. I mean, that's going to be the biggest question. If he can stay healthy, he can be amazing. There's no doubt about it. And there's a lot of good receivers in this year's class.
And part of it long term is how long is Cliff Kingsbury there with them, and what happens when he's with a different OC down the road.
And once again, we are reminded you can get running backs anywhere.
Maybe. It just depends on what your offense needs.
I mean, it's true. I mean, you can get there are Saquon Barkleys out there. You can get them. They can be found in the first round. You can also find Bucky Irvings in the 4th and 5th round. Pano is concerned that we might be getting a little too confident.
He didn't say we. He didn't say we.
It's Chiefs podcast, so I guess I should put just the group of Chiefs podcast. I might be grouped in there because I think the Chiefs are going to win this game. I'm not saying I'm not. I'm not worried about it. I mean, because first of all, it's not my job to worry, but I just think that they're going to win this game. I think. Now, Pano, from my standpoint, what you're going to hear from me next week is going to be a whole lot different if they win this game, because next week is going to be a battle. Whomever they face, it's going to be a battle.
All right, Matt. Congratulations to Pano for finding the Easter egg for rant number 1.
Okay, lightning round over.
Sorry, Matt. Pano. First thing I'm going to tell you is here and right now. 1, why are you listening to the other Chiefs podcast? How dare you? That's hurtful. That's number 1. Number 2, why would you compare other Chiefs podcasts to us? Okay? We are a standalone podcast, and a lot of times I end up finding out that questions we get asked in the comment section, I'll hear down the road on other shows, and I'll be like, oh, that's okay. They wanted to do gladiators pair us against each other and see who's going to have the better analysis or take or whatever it may be and everything, because I wonder where some of this stuff comes from sometimes, and then I go down that rabbit hole and I'm like, that makes more sense now. So here's what I'm going to tell you, Pano. Here's the number one thing I'm going to say to you more than anything else. I don't care what other people say. Does not matter to me. I know what tape I watch. I know what tape I see. And I know what I've been taught by people that I trust. What I'm going to tell you right now is the Chiefs are going for something right now that has never been done in the NFL. Nobody has won 3 consecutive Lombardi trophies, not even the Packers of the 60s, because it was part NFL and, it wasn't when it was all together merged as one thing, under one steeple. But now it is. What I'm going to tell you is the Chiefs have been ramping up for this moment. They have been given an opportunity for this week and for hopefully next week and for hopefully the week after to do something that's never been done in the NFL. Everything that they put in work-wise over the past 3 years is for this weekend, is for this moment. So when Andy Reid's up there in front of the room, thing he has to remind them for what they've been chasing is here right in front of them. So it doesn't matter what any Chiefs podcast says. What matters is what those 53 guys on that football team do this week. What focus do they have? Do they pay attention to the Rex Ryans of the world, or do they focus on how they can guess what that team's doing on 3rd and 3? So who cares about podcast? Who cares about that? This is the week where the Chiefs have to go decide if they want to go chase the legacy and cement themselves in NFL history and do something that nobody can ever touch them on again, that nobody else can duplicate. He's winning 1 Super Bowl is hard. Here's the other thing that people don't understand. What the Chiefs are going for right now, what some of the Chiefs teams that are in their players that are in their 3rd year, they don't know anything other than a Super Bowl win. They don't know anything other than a championship parade. Some of them may think that happens every year. There's some guys that never experienced that in their lifetime. DeAndre Hopkins never experienced that in his lifetime. So for those guys, that's what's so fascinating about this, is some of those guys only know AFC championships, Super Bowl victories, and confetti moments and parades. There are a lot of guys, and that's not normal. That's not, there's been, like Chris Jones. Chris Jones doesn't know what life other than playing in the playoffs is like, has absolutely no idea. Patrick Mahomes has no idea what it's like to not be in the playoffs in any way, shape, or form. Travis Kelce knows. There's only a few guys on this team that have no idea what that is like and the sustainability of what the Chiefs have done. So what I'm getting at here at the end of the day is who the heck cares what people that aren't in that building have to say. What matters is what they're focused on. That's why Andy said the things that he did today when he was asked, and he said, you can't look back. You can't look anywhere else. You can only focus on here and right now. There's a reason why he's saying that, because they know what this means. They know the work they put into it, but they know they have to focus on here right now and put every piece of energy into this moment so they can get to that next moment and the moment after. So who the heck cares about people outside that building, what they're saying and what they're thinking?
Hallelujah.
In rant complete.
Can I get an amen? I can't say any better than Nick, so there you go. Aren't you sorry you asked, Pano?
I will be brief on everything else from that point. I apologize.
Nick, do you have a winner in Ravens and Bills?
It's going to come down to 2 things, and I'm not kidding when I say this. Can the Ravens offensive line maul the Bills' nickel defense? If they can, Ravens win. If the Bills can space out and stretch out that Ravens secondary and that Ravens defense, and Josh Allen can make some of those insane plays that he did against the Broncos, like that pass that he threw the running back in the back of the end zone type of thing, then they'll have a chance too. But it's all going to come down to who can get more possessions, who does not turn the ball over, and who effectively can get the ball in the end zone more than the other one. The Ravens are going to try to take away the Bills' will. They're going to try to run the football at 4 and 5 yard clips. The Bills have to have an answer for it. And whoever among those things I talked about can execute better is who is either hosting the AFC Championship game or who is coming to Arrowhead potentially.
There you go. I mean, I keep going back and forth on this one because I think it is a tough one. Inevitably, I keep coming back to who are the most battle-tested teams in this whole playoff. And Chiefs and the Ravens, to me, are the 2 most battle-tested teams. And I go back and keep looking back at just the Ravens are so Chiefs-like in the sense that to me, they're very 2023 Chiefsy in the sense that if they played to the level of their opponent, and they got themselves involved in some games, and even had a couple of losses that they shouldn't have had. But when they played playoff games, they came to play. The defense came to play. The offense came to play. They were a much better team against playoff teams than they were against non-playoff teams. And that's why, I mean, I think we're going to end up seeing a Chiefs-Ravens rematch in the AFC Championship game.
Matt Pono wants another crack at a rant.
All right, where is it?
8:18. Apparently the rant wasn't good enough. Let's put Pono out here on the dance floor.
Pono, we love you, Pono. Don't.
Any NFL team can get beat, Pono. Any NFL team can have a bad day. So I don't understand what you're trying to move the field goal post to at this point, but it doesn't make sense.
I mean, I get from, you know, Bucano's multiple comments here that worried about overconfidence. And I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that, you know, hey, the Chiefs fans might not be overconfident. I don't think the Chiefs are overconfident, because I mean, I got a sense, I mean, I'll be honest today. I mean, I got a sense of a very serious workmanlike attitude. I don't think there's any overconfidence in that building. And echoing off of Nick's rant, one of the best things that the Chiefs have going for them is that they have guys like Mahomes, like Kelsey, like Chris Jones, who know what it feels like to lose a Super Bowl, who know what it feels like to lose an AFC Championship game. They have no interest in ever feeling like that again. So, I mean, they've never lost a divisional round game. That's, well, at least Mahomes hasn't. The other guys have. So they know what it feels like. Mahomes doesn't. Mahomes, I mean, just the most competitive man in the world. He is dying to end his career making sure that he never loses a divisional round game. And he makes the new guys aware that here's the standard. And if you think that, for the young guys and the newcomers, if you think that the standard has been high so far, you haven't seen nothing yet, because the standard just went up.
Pono's got another comment for you at 8:22 that, again, still doesn't make sense.
Just stop being overconfident and putting the horse before the carriage. Let's
okay,
first.
The original thing we're talking about is you talking about Chiefs podcasters that have absolutely no influence on what's going to happen in a game. So that's what we talked about. That's what we ranted about. And Matt just told you that the Chiefs have their blinders on because Andy Reid and the coaching staff have been in this level of success for a specific reason, is because they can get those guys to put their blinders on and worry about the here and now in the moment. So who the heck cares what any of us media members have to say, what any podcast has to say? Just like, I just don't understand how this has turned into what it's turned into.
It's okay. It's all we're all friends here. We love you, Pono. I understand you don't want to be overconfident. I think you're okay, because, like I said, I don't think the Chiefs are overconfident.
There, we're done. We're done with that one. We're moving on. We're back at the 7. Are you back at the 7? Yes. Yeah. I wish you the best on your lightning round, sir. I think you're 7:30 range, or where are you at?
We're getting close to it. Charo, what's the weather going to be like on Saturday? Will that play a role? It is going to be cold, Nick.
Yeah, last West Perry told me, I haven't paid attention today, but last he had forecast was like 28 degrees, and that it was going to get colder throughout the game by the time the sun went down.
Yeah, maybe possibility of some flurries. Yeah, it's not going to be great for a team from Texas that plays in a dome.
There's going to be flurries? What type? Oh, sorry.
Just a chance.
Sorry, I forgot. DQ doesn't call them flurries; they call them blizzards. I was like, is that going to be in the press box? Oh, my.
No, McFlurry is at McDonald's.
That's what I'm thinking.
That's what you're thinking of.
But we know the ice cream machine's broken regularly, so there's only a chance and not a reality. All right, sorry.
Jedi, do you think the Chiefs would like to run at Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter to try and slow down that pass rush, Nick?
I think whatever the Chiefs can do to dominate the time of possession and win the football game, they would love to do. But I think they're going to be balanced. I think they're going to pass. I think they're going to run. I think they're going to try and impose their will on the Texans and try to move on to the next round if they can.
I think we're going to see a little bit of Xavier Worthy probably also doing a little bit of end-around action and slowing those guys down too. So it won't. I think they are going to run the football at those guys, and I just don't think it's going to be just Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco. I think you'll see a couple of different attempts at this. I do have a good story here that I enjoy because earlier, Nick, I think he may have just been coming in when I was talking about Dave Scretta got to write his own headline and referring to Patrick Mahomes and Brittany's new child, Golden Ray, as the Golden Child, which I greatly enjoyed because of the reference to the 1980s Eddie Murphy movie. So a great behind the scenes story. A few years ago in the media room, I have no idea how it all got started. We were talking about movies for some reason before the press conferences began on coordinator day. And we started talking about The Golden Child for some reason, and an Eddie Murphy movie. And the line about, I want the knife came up. And so Eric Bieniemy comes in, and as he was leaving, I just, for no apparent reason whatsoever, said, hey, Coach B, have you ever seen The Golden Child? And he said, give me the knife. So the fact that was the first thing he said when we just asked him if he'd seen The Golden Child was to quote the movie. So if you're quoting The Golden Child, I mean, that was the day that the EB went up to that level for me. I mean, I would go through a wall for that guy just because he can quote The Golden Child.
There you go.
There you go. Chris, if you are the Texans, how do you attack both on offense and defense?
You try to pressure the Chiefs, try to keep Mahomes out of rhythm. Don't let him scramble outside of the pocket. You try to keep him contained in the pocket. That's number one in that aspect. You try to keep the Chiefs in long down and distances if you can. Keep them in third and long. And then defense-wise, you're trying to figure out a way to get the ball to Nico Collins. And honestly, you're trying to do a lot of tight end and running back delays like they did. I don't think they'll do as many wide receiver screens as they tried. I want to say they tried a lot of wide receiver screens last time. I'm getting ready to go rewatch the Chiefs game from last time against them, but I remember the Chiefs being really aggressive, whether it was them or I think it was them because I think they tried a lot of those, and Chiefs were very physical tackling-wise.
Aaron, any concerns with Butker? How is he looking in practice? I mean, I've been pretty severe on this one, Nick. I mean, I've got no concerns about Harrison Butker. He's comfortable with his approach. I mean, his going down to a knee and his follow through, I know is worrying people. He's been doing it for 2 years. I know it's getting more pronounced. He says he is very comfortable with it, that he's worked with it for a while. He feels good about it. He feels confident. I mean, you got to remember that 29-yard field goal or the 21-yard field goal, I forget the distance on it that he missed, remember, was when Winchester and Ariza were hanging out on the sideline because they didn't know that the Chiefs were kicking a field goal, and there was no way in the world he was making that kick. Once you get in a kicker's head like that, you've blown their chance. The only way that he was making that kick was if the Chiefs had called timeout and just regrouped. I mean, I saw the look on his face as he was screaming at Ariza and Winchester to get on the field, and my first thought was, there's no way this dude is making this kick. He missed a 51-yarder on a day when the Chiefs, frankly, weren't really trying to win and missed an extra point, which, kickers do. Here's my question for you, and this is my little short, tiny rant. When was the last clutch kick that Harrison Butker missed? I mean, the dude has got ice water in his veins. I've got no concerns that when the lights are pretty, lights are bright, Harrison Butker's going to show up and be just fine.
Yeah.
And as for looking in practice, we will get a brief look at him probably on Thursday. There will be a special, or Wednesday rather. There's usually a special teams period we do get to see for a little bit. So we'll see how he looks then. But I've got zero concerns about Harrison Butker.
Well, when it comes to kickers, I'm always concerned. Doesn't matter how many they make in a row. I will always be concerned, no matter if he's perfect or not.
Pano, I'm not picking on you, I promise. But Pano, noting that Deontay Johnson was released by the Texans, because every team in the NFL is going to get their shot at releasing, I guess, Deontay Johnson eventually. But do the Chiefs pick up Johnston for the information that they can take advantage of? And I'm assuming from the emoji that is sarcasm, Pano. So I'm going to give you credit for that, because Deontay Johnson wasn't even in Houston long enough to be able to give you recommendations on good places to go to eat. And the only part of the playbook that he apparently picked up was the part of, I assume there must be a part of the playbook in the Houston offense that says whine and cry about not getting your targets. So that seemed to be the only thing he did in Houston.
I have no comment in lightning round.
Do I need to put up the disclaimer, Nick?
Nope, you're good.
So you're saying I do speak for you now.
Oh boy.
Corey, who would you like to see start at running back, Hunt or Pops?
Kareem Hunt every time.
Yeah, I ditto. Don't even think we have to have a discussion about that.
There's a reason you rested him. It's so he can run wild and get redemption over what him and the team probably hope is the next 3 weeks.
Kareem wants this bad, and he is healthy and rested. Pacheco is not healthy. He is rested, but Kareem is ready to go, and he wants this. So
I just think the thing that a lot of people are underestimating is how bad Kareem Hunt, DeAndre Hopkins, probably Hollywood Brown, how much these guys want this opportunity and specifically came here for this opportunity. And DJ Humphries included came here for this opportunity. There's other guys we can probably think of down the road here, but there's a reason why those guys came here. And the motivation they're going to have for this moment with it right in front of them is what's going to remind some other people that may take this for granted that, oh, wow, look at, wow, this isn't normal doing this every year. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sharon with the question, any concern about Azeez Al-Shaair and dirty play? I mean, he obviously got a lot of attention a few weeks ago for the hit on Trevor Lawrence. I think he's had an injury. I'm not sure where he was I did not see the final Houston injury report. I should pull it up real quick to see where he's at.
He had an injury, but I mean, he did play last week. And
yeah,
when I saw him, I was like, oh, he's going to be back for this one.
I mean, I'll be honest. I don't have a huge concern. I don't think he's a headhunter. I mean, I think he made a questionable play, but I don't think it was with ill intent necessarily. So I don't have a huge concern. And if anything, I mean, unless you're a dirty player who's just going to go out and make dirty plays, if you're a player who actually, has some concerns and you get flagged and called out for a dirty play like that, and you're on the radar, you usually want to tighten it up. So, I mean, I don't have a lot of concerns. Do you, Nick?
No, I mean, until I see him start to go down and try to lower a shoulder when Mahomes may be sliding, until that happens, I won't have any concerns.
And if he tries to do it, I know of at least 2 or 3 guys on that offensive line that will let him know that that's not appropriate. And they're not worried about what kind of flag that they might get in return because they're just willing to send a message. And a couple of those guys just pushed a car out of, a snowbank. So I think they can take a linebacker.
Hope it doesn't come to that.
No, you don't want it to come to that, but I'm just saying, don't mess with Mahomes because he does have some enforcers. Choro, what are your thoughts on the wildcard games? Is having the 7th seed too much?
See, and I know where this came from. This is from Carrington Harrison's show earlier today.
That
they had a debate about it. Like I said, half our questions come from sports talk radio shows or other podcasts.
Aha!
Right there.
Well, what was the discussion? Should I know?
Carrington, and then we're kind of comparing that in the college football playoffs, and like, is it too much and everything because the 7th seeds aren't successful and everything. Here's the angle that I don't know if enough people can kind of correlate, but from listening to that debate, I was like, this is what I want to correlate down the road here, is what impact does that have on the 2nd seed? What impact does that have on the 1st seed? Since the 1st seed's getting a bye, how many more opportunities are they getting to not only make a conference championship, but maybe make the Super Bowl? And then for 2 seed, who would have had the bye, what is it doing for them? Does it get them in a rhythm, or how does it either help or hurt them? And so that's something I'm going to end up kind of looking into and seeing how it altered paths from past years before when they were only at 6. But at the end of the day, there may be something down the road. The NFL may get crazy and decide that they want an 8th seed because the Bengals, go to ownership and say there should be an 8th seed in the playoffs. And then the NFL is going to hear cha-ching even more, and then they'll take the 2 seeds. And then they'll magically get a bye too, but they'll still keep the same, playoff inventory.
I mean, and I don't put necessarily the Broncos in this category. Put the Steelers in this category a little bit this year, but I mean, the bottom line is that you play the playoffs at the end of the season, and your record at the end of the season certainly reflects what the body of your work was, but it doesn't necessarily reflect how well you're playing at the end of the season. And I mean, the Steelers are a great example of that. Steelers fell apart in the last month of the season. They had nothing left. Those guys had already done 1-2-3 Cancun before that game against the Ravens. They were ready to get out of there. I mean, the Broncos are a nice story, but the Broncos, I mean, they're going to probably lose that game 7 times out of 10 because they're a young up-and-coming team, and the Bills are not. They're much more experienced. I mean, it's just, I mean, if your point is that these were some bad wild card games, well, only thing you would getting rid of the 7th seed is you're getting rid of one bad game, because you know what, the 6 and 3s and the 5 and 4 games weren't that great either, except for maybe one of them.
The only thing I see changing is they would add an 8th seed, and then 1 and 2 both get bye weeks.
That's possible.
So they maintain the inventory for overall playoffs.
I have actually not had this conversation yet, Nick, today, but I've had some thoughts. Matt Stafford's fumble that wasn't a fumble and was clearly intentional grounding.
The refs claim there was a receiver in the area, and that's why they didn't call intentional.
I mean, and I watched it the first time, and my first time was like, well, that was just about the dirtiest little quarterback play you're ever going to see. And more I've thought, like, yeah, I mean, you know what? It was dirty. It was smart. And if Puka was not anywhere near there, had they not had a receiver running that route, then yes, it is intentional grounding. I mean, it was not a fumble. It was definitely moving forward, and his arm was moving forward. So it was a bad pass, but it was a pass, and there was a receiver there. So, I mean, I give it to Stafford. It was a smart play. I don't know that he realized that he had a receiver there. I think he was probably just trying to get rid of the football. He was just lucky that there was a receiver there. I don't know if in that split second they had the calculation to say to himself, oh, hey, Puka's right there. I'll just drop this ball forward and get myself out of the situation. I actually think the officials got it right. I mean, it's a sneaky play, but you know what? I mean, once upon a time, there was a rule in the NFL called in the grasp. And once upon a time, that would have been a sack. That would not have been an incomplete pass, because the officials would have, 50% of the time, they would have ruled the quarterback in the grasp. And the other 50% of the time, they wouldn't have, because the in the grasp rule was so poorly officiated that they got rid of it. So,
all right, Matt, I'm here to help you. Andrew 738 is your next question.
Help me move right along.
I'm going to do my best. I'll be ahead of it for you.
There you go. I knew there was a lot of Rex Ryan comments that I was going to skip. So, where? You said 738?
Yep, 738, Andrew.
I saw 730. Oh, 738, Andrew. Yes. There we go. If Chiefs win the divisional round, would you rather play Ravens or Bills?
I don't think it matters, because I think they're both going to have their different challenges. Ravens are going to have a good run defense that can play the Chiefs. We'll see what Zay Flowers is like over the next, because Ravens don't have to put their injury report out until tomorrow. So where Zay Flowers at is going to answer a lot of that. The Bills have a passing offense and a run game that is going to cause the Chiefs some problems matchup-wise. And the Chiefs' offense is going to have to raise its level no matter who they're playing. So both of them are going to be tough. Championship games, no matter who they would play if they get to that point.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, it's a different challenge. It's two really good teams. I mean, that's why I say, I'm telling Pano, don't worry. Next week there is not going to be a lot of overconfidence, especially from this podcast, because I have no idea. That's going to be a 50-50 game for next week for me. If the Chiefs beat the Texans, because let's face it, there's no guarantee there, no overconfidence. But if they do, and it's a 50-50 ball game next week. I mean, it's going to be a battle.
750 churros, your next one.
I was going to quickly answer Angie's, because I don't need to borrow your bifocals. I have bifocals. I just they bother me when I'm on my monitors and everything, and I think I look cooler without them. So my glasses are not very cool, Nick. So you said 730, 740?
Nope. What? I said 750 churro. That'll be your next one. Lamar Jackson.
I love having a producer. How come no one talks about Lamar Jackson being a free agent that no one wanted to sign for a few years ago? Weird coincidence, his accolades today?
Here, at the end of the day, there's certain coordinators that work well with Lamar, and right now Todd Monken's really been able to bring out the best in who Lamar is. But the reason a lot of teams weren't willing to bring him in is because they either didn't feel they had a roster that fit his skill set, or they weren't going to get an offensive coordinator that fit his skill set. So they knew that there was a specific type that was there, and they probably all honestly believed deep down that they were going to do the heavy lifting, because the Ravens have been known to just match what a team does in league circles, so they didn't want to do the heavy lifting for him to go back to the Ravens. And that's another possibility, that they're like, well, nah, we won't do the heavy lifting for him, because that's been done before, where other teams have put out an offer, put everything out there, and then they're just like, okay, well, the Ravens will match it. Bye, thanks. And then they, some teams have probably been burned by that before, and I know some teams have been.
Yeah, I mean, and once again, some of the teams that, did not consider pursuing Lamar Jackson did so because, frankly, once again, they fit into the category of teams that don't know what they're doing. But you make a very good point, which is that if your roster is not built for Lamar Jackson and you don't have the players around him that would fit what his game is, and you don't have the offensive coordinator, that's a problem. And Ravens did. So he was always going to be the perfect fit for the Ravens. Robert, did the ones versus ones practice again to stay sharp? I don't know the details from practice. I doubt it, because last week when Andy Reid made a point of talking about the fact that they did that, remember, they didn't have an opponent. They weren't game planning last week. It was really just a stay sharp practice. Today they had an opponent. I mean, this was game planning. So this would have been, no ones versus scout team to start putting everything in. So I imagine that's what today was.
Yeah, I think last week was a tempo setter. I think last week is to set the tempo, get their minds back to a certain level of competitiveness, and get the competitive juices flowing. I think now is back to real world about what they have to do, like you said, to get to that point. Next question, Matt, for you will be from Brian Parrott at 8:15.
Ooh. All right, I'm scrolling. I'm getting there.
That's fine. That's what I'm here for. I'm helping you narrow down.
Brian, will Kincaid or Bowers actually get to breathe the same air as Kelsey, Gronk, and Gonzo?
For me, I think Brock Bowers is, if he can stay healthy, I think he will be in that ballpark. Kincaid has a lot of injury history with his lower back and everything that was making teams nervous around the draft. Kincaid's been hurt a handful of times this year, and I just don't know if Kincaid's ever going to be healthy enough to get to that point. And as long as you have him and Dawson Knox there, there's just not going to be enough targets for him to get on his own. But Bowers is going to be what really, once he gets a quarterback and with the Raiders and a good offensive-minded coach, Bowers didn't even have a good offensive-minded coach this year. So once he gets that alone and then a quarterback on top of it, he's going to start putting up some insane numbers, and he'll be the tight end standard next in line.
Bowers had an incredible season with two quarterbacks who are replacement level at best. I mean, you get him any type of a quarterback. I mean, if say something crazy, like Carson Wentz went to go be the quarterback for the Raiders next season, Brock Bowers might get 1,400 yards. I mean, he's going to go nuts. He just goes nuts with a halfway decent quarterback. And if they ever get their quarterback, he's going to be putting up Travis kind of numbers. I saw AZ Chiefs question about couldn't find the record for most teams played for in one season. Johnson may be the biggest winner of them all. I mean, playing for four teams in a calendar year is pretty impressive, Nick.
So I'll tie it in with KC Chiefs question at 8:23 and put this all together as one. I think Deontay Johnson has a certain vision on how he thought the season was going to go numbers-wise for him and what he wanted to do on the stage. So when the Panthers couldn't give him the playoff stage that he wanted, he found a way to try to go to a team to get that playoff stage, and the Ravens were willing to trade a pick for him. When the Ravens wouldn't give him the platform that he wanted to be able to try to put up the numbers so he can make money in free agency next year, I think that's why he got frustrated. And when he wasn't willing to fall in line of what they wanted their players to do on the team, then I think they moved on from him. Then that story that's come out about him with the Texans and how he was allegedly pouting in the locker room afterwards, and the veteran leaders talked to him, and he magically gets waived. I think that's also, he's gotten his mind what he needs to do catch-wise, what he needs to do on the playoff stage, and the fact that he hasn't gotten those numbers and those reps and the season hasn't worked out the way that he wanted to make money in free agency. I think that's what's causing the frustration of it. And at the end of the day, if he had honestly probably just stayed in Pittsburgh, he probably would have had the best possible scenario for himself in terms of catches and everything and what he could have done in that Steelers offense. And maybe the Steelers offense is different this year, and he has a much better chance of making money in free agency next year. But I think that's where all that stems from at the end of the day.
And I mean, he could have stayed in Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh made a pretty clear decision that they were either going to keep the head case that is Deontay Johnson or the head case that is George Pickens, and they chose the George Pickens head case because I think that you would have to assume that they felt like that he was less of a head case, and George Pickens is clearly a head case too. So it's pretty impressive when you've been able to blow your way through out of that many organizations. And I just hope that nobody is ever seriously going to ask us again, Nick, should the Chiefs go get Deontay Johnson? Because the answer is no.
Well, somebody will ask you. Just give them time.
just be forewarned now, folks. If you ever want to ask that question for real and not sarcastically, the answer is no.
All right, Matt, 832, Toney Martin. That's your next one.
All right.
We're getting near the end.
Oh, Nick, movie enthusiast. What's one of your favorite movies?
Matt, you go first because I got a couple.
Okay, well, I know that in today's day and age, it is not aging well, but I am still a Groundhog Day fan. It is still one of my favorite movies of all time. Star Wars, the entire franchise. I mean, I can tell you in order which movies are the best. Last Jedi is the worst. I can give you many reasons on why The Last Jedi is the worst movie. And if you want to argue with me, I would love to. We can sit down over lunch one day or Reese's peanut butter cups, but I will explain to you why you're wrong. I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, there's others that are just really, movies that I've seen a lot. I tell you, Get Shorty is a movie that I really enjoy quoting. Just not enough people are as quotable of Get Shorty as I am. Anything that there's a lot of Bill Murray and Chevy Chase 1980s movies. Today, for instance, I probably said doctor 8 times because I was in situations where I was holding a door open or at the door and a line of people went by me, and I'm just going to say there was a couple of people who did not get the reference, and I was very disappointed in them and thought less of them. So,
well, I'm sorry I ignored you, Matt. No, I'm just kidding. I wasn't even there today.
No.
So for me, Varsity Blues and Superbad are always going to be the top two. Top Gun and the Top Gun Maverick are always going to be up there. Those are some of the greatest movies ever made.
Just a question here. Does anyone who watches Top Gun, is every time that you watch the movie, do you hope that this is the time that Goose does not die?
I just kind of accepted that that's just part of that. I
just hope one day I'm going to watch it and Goose is not going to die.
Well, Matt, maybe there's an alternate version of it out there.
Maybe I'll end up in an alternate universe one day.
So, looks like next question, 836, Stephen Holman. It's a different take on the DJ Humphries thing.
Just joined the show. Do you think if they treated DJ like they treated Toney a tackle, i.e. quick passes, occasional chip, wouldn't he look better instead of leaving him out on an island?
So, yes, it can help, but I think part of it is that Joe Toney increasingly got better. DJ has more experience. So if the Chiefs are trying to be unpredictable and do different parts of their offense, because for example, part of what got the Chargers is the fronts the Texans were giving them made them guess on who was coming at times with some of the simulated pressure and who was going to drop in the zone and who was actually going to rush. So the Chargers had some issues with that part of it. Another part of it was Herbert had to be precise because of some of the zones they were dropping into. And when he guessed wrong on either the receiver doing that, for example, Eric Murray was behind in that zone coverage ready to jump on that pass because the receiver didn't have the route that Herbert was expecting him to continue on based on that coverage. And then the tight end, whenever he bobbled it and then it went to Stingley and Stingley returned it, that was, again, there was somebody sitting behind each time in the vicinity that had their eyes on the quarterback. So for the Chiefs, what they're going to try to potentially do is they're probably going to flood the zones, try to overwhelm the zones so that these guys can't have their eyes on Patrick Mahomes at all times and not allow them to rally to the football every single time. So with all that combined, I think they're going to try to keep favorable down and distances with the run game, but then also figure out ways to not allow them to continually just keep their eyes on Mahomes and sit in zone coverage and then, kind of force the Chiefs to have to do paper cuts down the field the entire time.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, the note on the quick passes, the difference to me is that you saw with Joe Toney that Mahomes seemed to have a greater comfort level, that he was keeping both eyes downfield and on receivers. We weren't seeing him missing open receivers as much. And just, I mean, I'm not talking about missing and, misfiring. I'm just talking about overlooking open receivers and just not seeing the entire field, because I feel like there were certainly at times he was trying to keep one eye behind him and one eye downfield. And that's not going to get you the quick passing and get rid of the ball quickly. You've got to have the trust that you can keep both eyes downfield and not worry about what's going on behind you. And he just has a comfort level with Toney that Toney is going to sacrifice his body to stay between him, keep himself between Mahomes and any press rush. And no matter how ugly it looks, that Toney's going to try and do that. I just don't think he ever had that trust with anybody else this season. We really don't know what kind of trust he has with DJ Humphries because we only saw 3/4 of it. And that's why, you were talking about it earlier, Nick. I mean, I feel like you go with the left tackle that makes Mahomes the most comfortable. And if Mahomes says he's comfortable with DJ Humphries, go with that, because that should, on paper, be their best offensive line.
All right, 840 Ranch is interesting one. And then I think you just got one, you got one more, and then that's it.
Your opinion, please. If the Chiefs had to choose one, would they rather have game momentum or time of possession?
I think whatever helps them win the game. Because you're going to need both at some point. You're going to want to control the amount of possessions it has, but you also, you think the Chiefs-Texans game last time, the Chiefs were able to dominate at certain points, but those interceptions were really costly for the Texans and really put the Chiefs in a rhythm to where they controlled a lot of that game.
Yeah, this isn't exactly an analytics question, because it's probably two things that analytics people would say, are irrelevant. But, I mean, Andy Reid's a momentum coach. I mean, he's always, I think, going to choose, the side of momentum. He is going to take actions at times that you might not agree with, because he is trying to make sure that he doesn't give away momentum. He's not going to do something crazy like necessarily go for it on 4th and 7 from midfield, because he doesn't want to hand over the football to the other team and give them a short field and make them, feel like that they just got a huge victory. I mean, and time of possession, and by and large, is irrelevant. I mean, there is a correlation with time of possession and winning, simply because teams that win typically hold on to the ball, especially late, run out the clock. I mean, I like to sometimes jokingly, because I do have a couple of friends who, hate time of possession. So I love to just occasionally drop some mentions on social media. Well, hey, Chiefs won time of possession 33-27. So that's why they won the game. I don't mean that, but Andy Reid is, as much as I feel like he is, undersold for how much he has embraced analytics, he's still a momentum guy. He is still going to manage a game by what he thinks is going to give him the best chance to win. And he thinks that having the best chance to win usually means controlling the momentum of the game.
All right, Matt, you're down to your final one now.
What you got?
from
Where am I
Andrew at
going?
Andrew at 850, and then you are officially done at that point. You have lightning round the heck out of it.
And I should let Andrew know I'm going to be at Liberty North on Friday because I am judging the Liberty North speech and debate tournament. So
Get it.
there you go. Looking forward to it. Can't judge on Friday or Saturday rather because of the game, but I'm definitely going to be there on Friday night. What are your thoughts of the Bills' performance in the first half of their wild card game versus the Broncos?
I think the Broncos were able to take away a lot of the rhythm that Josh Allen wanted and what helps get their offense into it. And they didn't really give James Cook a lot of ability to run around like he would and be dominant. And then Khalil Shakir is really another big part of what kind of helps get them into rhythm. But once they knew what the Broncos were going to do and they were able to kind of space them out in the way that they wanted, then the Bills took over. And Josh Allen made his hero plays on third down that he wanted to. And then there was no stopping him after that. What the Broncos really needed is they needed Bo Nix to really step up there in the first half. But there wasn't enough for them in the offensive receiver, tight end to help them get to that point. And they don't really have as strong of a run game as you need to stay committed with that. So it just kind of got overwhelming for Bo Nix, and he didn't have a lot of options to go with. And the Bills adjusted to the ball over top and everything. So then the Broncos really didn't have a lot of answers on this year's roster to do it.
Yeah, and I thought there was a little bit of, similarities between the Bills' approach and the Ravens' approach in the first half of both those games, and that the Bills really weren't that interested in going up and down the field and putting the ball in, at least on the shoulder of Josh Allen. I mean, they wanted to kind of run the football and establish that early, and then once they did that, in the second half, they kind of had their way with whatever they wanted to do. But after that opening drive on the Broncos, I mean, Bills pretty much just controlled that game.
Yeah. So there's multiple questions since I said it was our last question. If you want to take one more, you can. But then after that, I do need to get going.
Is there one that jumps out to you? I'll let you take your pick.
No, because here's the thing. Anything about free agency and hypotheticals right now, I think it's a waste of time because we got a whole off season to talk about that in February, March, and April.
All right. Well, I'm going to come back and answer those questions then offline. Well, I say offline. I'm going to answer them after the show. We'll go ahead and wrap up now, Nick, because I know you and I both have to take off. But any parting thoughts for the group?
No, I already did it in the rant. So let's go find the rant.
All right, everybody. Hey, thanks everybody for joining us once again on Tuesday Night Q&A. We'll be back next week, one way or the other, whenever the Chiefs play, and assuming that they play. If not, we're still going to be back for a Q&A. This weekend, Saturday, some point after the game, we will be wrapping everything up for you on 41 is the mic.
Got a promo there just for you.
Just for you.
All things Chiefs right here. 41 is the mic, a Chiefs podcast on your home of the Chiefs. Listen now wherever you get your podcasts. Also available to watch on KSHB 41's YouTube page.